Hi, welcome to Pink Lion Podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Smuck, and I am joined today by a really great guest, Naomi.
Hello.
Hi. Well, for our viewers and listeners, Naomi is going to be our partner in crime here while we unfold all of this. But Naomi has been a little preoccupied as I started to introduce you to myself. I now want to introduce you to Naomi and give a background on her and what she has been doing in this realm of mediumship, psychic work, witchcraft, and different things. So, Naomi, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's a honor to do this with you, Cindy. Um, yeah, so the way it started with me was just back in high school, actually. I kind of had more of a draw towards like the magical arts and different types of spiritualities and religion and nature-based, um, spiritualities as well, and witchcraft, things like that, like very much the metaphysical, like the spiritual part, like knowing there's something else besides this, right? And that kind of just always stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really delved into that and other things like tarot and stuff. And then um, my ex was not very supportive of these endeavors. And once we split, I really put full force back into my spirituality, connecting with spirit. It's funny, on my 36th birthday, I was single, I decided to treat myself like going to a mediumship class. And from there is when everything started. And I was like, oh my
Nice.
gosh, like I really like felt spirit, like I was meant to go there.
Right.
Because all my other plans fell through. Nothing else was happening. I'm like, let me do this. And that was just meant to be. And I had no idea what I was doing initially. And I just had to kind of trust myself and feel it out. I had a really great mentor who actually took a lot of my classes through here in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but really, it started with me through not really knowing that I could connect with the loved ones in spirit. But my first step was like the spirit guides. And I would say probably my first instance of knowing I could speak to spirit in some way, shape, or form was very random. I was at work one day and it was overtime. It was just me in the building. I was an insurance company. I'm just typing away, doing really mind numbing stuff. And I hear a conversation happening that's in my head, but not mine. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
this is not, I didn't initiate this conversation. And they were talking about me. And I looked all, like, I did search like the floor I was on to see if there's anybody there. There was no one. And I knew this was not like a psychotic break because of the fact that I expected this. Like I asked for to have
Mm-hmm.
spirit, speak in a way. It was a psychotic break, but I knew that it was something that was spiritual as opposed to psychological. And I started kind of talking back, like, "Hi, how you doing?" And the voices would stop. I don't know if I knew I could hear them or not up until that point, but that's when I started trusting the things that I heard. And at first, it wasn't clear. I could hear bits and pieces, but then eventually, I just allowed and learned to trust
Mm-hmm.
and knew these were my guides and built relationships. And it takes time, And I
Yeah.
realized that some of these energies that's also the way that I talk to spirit. It's conversations happening here that are ones that I didn't always initiate. So it starts in these little bits and pieces, right? It's not something that's always grandiose, but it can be. But for me, it was these little starts and stops. And then the self trust is what helped everything blossom
Mm.
for the mediumship.
Yeah.
Um, and that's really what, and just the practices that I have, and I teach a lot of different metaphysical classes on energy work, spirit communication, channel magic, things like that, that really enhance this practice because it's all about connecting with spirit of some sort, right? And
Right.
our guides are energies that are not human usually, and they're energies that are invested in our well-being to help us with things like protection and grief and healing and empowerment. And we have so many energies that love to help us and be there, along with our wonderful loved ones in spirit, And one of the things I do love about the loved ones in spirit and one of the reasons why their connection is so powerful is because they know what it's like to have the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
They know what it's like to be here, right? So a lot of the time um, the work they do with us, their help is tailored to us. They know us, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know what it's like to be here. They have that greater wisdom that and the clarity they didn't have before. I'm getting chills. Um, and that piece is so important, and that's what I feel in my heart is like this connection of they're still helping us in a way they could never have before, and they're choosing to help us for many reasons. They evolve as spirits too, but also because that love doesn't stop, you know?
It
And
just changes form. Yeah.
it does, and to feel it in such a way kind of the grief is always gonna be there, but the understanding that the physical piece that leaves, that spirit remains, and it's more like it's woven into us, right? They speak to us from inside. So, and that's what I love about this work.
It's interesting. We have two kind of different paths, and how we met was rather interesting. We met in a practice room where you were trying to do some gallery readings and prepare for a gallery event, and I happened to be available and popped in. And it was like really at the beginning stages of my own development. So I think it's been at least a year now since I've known
It's been
you.
almost a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we've worked together regularly to help us each out along our own journeys. And we both have gotten stronger and stronger and stronger along the way. Just so that the viewers and listeners know how we met, you know, and, but we have a different path that we took to get to this same spot. So mine came through trauma originally, is how I became kind of aware of my gifts. How did yours begin?
it's for me, the way that began, if I think back, it was by being in nature. I think number one, because it was stillness. I could just be I'm someone that likes my alone time. It's very sacred to me. And my
Mhm.
stillness being out in nature and just feeling the energy that's there, being with the land. Something about that helped me to connect. And even today,
I just need you to hold on a second. Can you hear me? You had an incoming call and it stops. That's okay. It said the recording stopped. Okay. Oh, no, no, no. It's okay. I'm probably, if it doesn't seem to have stopped the record. Okay, there we go. All right. Continue. Just let's start all over so I can take that piece out in the
okay,
editing process.
sounds good. Yeah. So where it started for me, for a few places, one was just the work I do out in nature. Even when I was a teenager, I like being on my own. I really like my solitude and my alone time, even though I'm a social person. And that spending time in nature really helped to open me up. For some reason, I would feel spirit when I was like in the woods. Also, being alone in general helps me to feel
Mhm.
spirit. Kind of now that we're talking about it, my uncle passed away when I was a senior in high school. And I had a dream where I was hugging him and crying and telling him I'm so sorry. I didn't visit him before he passed away. And I woke up and I could still feel him hugging me. And it was so intense. Like I was awake just like I am now. And I felt that energy and I felt that pressure. I totally forgot about this until this moment. And I remember how intense that was. I'm like, that was real. That
Mhm.
was meant to happen for a reason. So that way I knew that he's not really gone. And that was really powerful to me. And from that point forward is when I started to really trust and know that there were loved ones around me that had passed. A very dear high school friend had passed away not long before that piece, in a
Mhm.
car accident. And that was, I guess, basically my first brush with death when it came to people around me being dead, right? At the time
Right.
of 17, you think we're going to just live forever. You don't think about that. And he became a guide of mine in mediumship later on, that he would visit me in dreams. And they were
I
like the most
know.
intense dreams. Yeah, and he's come through during our sessions.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he
a-
has.
And it was just that too was like he's working with me. It's different, but it's the same and he's different. And but it was just very much that connection of my loved ones coming back to say, hey, we haven't left, we're still here. You want to do work together, even
Mhm.
though I didn't know what that meant at the time. That is where it really started for me to trust. So I'd say that was where my path started for connecting with spirit and wanting to connect with spirit
Mhm.
and being open to it from that.
It's interesting, as I start to do more and more of my, like, TikTok lives, and I'm meeting more people and giving a space for people to go. part of why I did that, well, part of why Spirit just like pushed me in front of the train essentially, just like, go, do it now. And it's because there are so many people out there who already like have these pieces that they just haven't quite connected. It's like they've had pieces of the puzzle to like do the outline of the puzzle, but they just don't understand how this actually works and how subtle the messages or the communication is. And I'm wondering how that felt for you when you were kind of first coming into awareness and being open to allowing it in. How did you make that connection?
Yeah. It's interesting because I didn't trust it at first. I dismissed it. I thought, why would
Mhm.
I have this capability? How would I know how to do this stuff, right? And interestingly enough, it wasn't until people outside of me, when I would tell them these experiences I had, would trust in me, be like, "Well, you just had a psychic experience. This was from
Wow.
spirit." And I'm like, "Really?" It's like I didn't believe in myself first, but other people believed in me. And I'm like, "Well, I trust these people, so maybe there's something to it." Because sometimes we need to be reminded of who we are and reminded that the things that we get, the signs from spirit, well, one, everybody's different with the signs they get. They're really not that universal. Sometimes a little bit, but really not. So it's unique to the person. But number two, when people sometimes it's nice to have that validation that, oh, I am a psychic being. I have the ability to do this. I am spirit, right? So initially I would say that it was other people when I would explain things, tell them, well, yeah, that's a connection. Then I started to believe it. But it's very subtle. I think that in general, the media kind of does a disservice when it comes to some of this work because
Yeah.
people expect like they're going to see this psychic vision, something like rolling out right in front of them that's really intense and clear, right? That's not how it works. So I think that part of this practice is not just to trust yourself, but be curious. See this as something that could be like fun, and you're getting to know who you are as a medium, as a spirit communicator. So I think that piece is important too.
I think I also kind of am learning that, well, there are two different types of emotions that we pull our general emotions from, right? Fear or love, right? We
Mm,
respond in either love or we respond in fear. And grief can be both. They can come from a fear based response or a loving response. A lot of the times it comes from a loving response, but it can be painful. And people can misunderstand how to interpret that, right? So, um, when they grieve, they might be either questioning themselves and their own sanity when they start either getting a message, a communication, or a sign, things like this, because they feel like I'm so sad or I'm so angry or I'm
mm,
so whatever emotion is coming through. And we both view death very differently than your average person. And so, do you remember a time when you went through? Because I think you had earlier experiences than I did and I wasn't aware back when I went through these experiences. Do you remember how you might have connected the two or going through grief, maybe in hearing the communication, what that might have felt like for you?
yeah. Um, if I think back, I'd go back to my friend that in high school that passed away.
Hmm.
It was devastating because of my age and because we were very close. And there were some synchronicities that would happen that I didn't quite understand,
Hmm.
but just seemed like they were too how what how would this happen? It's just so uncanny. And one of the things that had happened was when he passed away was it was a car accident. He used to like gamble, or however a high school kid gambles, right? But I think he would bet on
Yeah.
basketball games and things like that. But near his crash site, I went there. I just was drawn to the crash site. And there were these fuzzy dice there, which you actually pulled through in one of the readings.
Yeah.
And those fuzzy dice, I don't even know if they were his. I think they might have been. But those for me were ended up being a sign later on, not just in our sessions, but they've come through before. And I realized that recently the fuzzy dice, when I see them in some way, shape, or form, to me are like, oh wait, Drac has something to say. It usually has something to do with I need to gamble in the way of taking a risk, taking a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So I associate the dice with him. So that's one communication. Another one was with my grandmother. I would smell her perfume, and it was right when she passed away. My mom called and told me, then I had the smell of her perfume, and I'm like, where's that coming from? And I didn't really see it anywhere. Like, and my roommate didn't have any perfume. It's just me and alone in my room. So like things like that, that I'm like, well, no, that's just my imagination, right?
Right.
And our imagination is directly connected to the our
Communication. Hmm.
yeah, with spirit. So, but little things like that that just um just seem kind of like too good to be true, uncanny. Synchronicities usually are such a connection from spirit. So little things like that that didn't seem significant, but looking back, they're everything.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I think back on my overall journey, because my life started in trauma, right? My father, taking it out on us kids physically. You learn to read energy, but even way back then, you enter the room or he comes home and it's not body language. And that's not the only thing that you're trying to pay attention to, or you don't even really observe that when you're a child. You're feeding off of their energy before they even open their mouth.
Yeah,
And I realized that as I wrote the book, Pink Line, because I, I didn't even connect it before. So even when my own father-in-law was able to kind of turn around, and I heard that in my head, images can pop in. You can hear the person's voice in your own mind, in your ear, like they're standing right there. I mean, every one of us has different gifts, is what I'm saying. We each individually experience different things, but it seems to be the subtle, like whisper from spirit and how
yeah,
it comes in with the synchronicities that
yeah,
tend to be the communication that we all miss initially, especially with our busy lives, right? Raising kids, working, we're all distracted. And as I'm doing these TikTok lives, these women that are in my room, not just women, there are some men too, but a majority of them are women. They're starting to understand that these things that they've been seeing, witnessing, feeling throughout the years are actual communication.
yeah.
And I'm like, well, I can't help you because I'm still kind of new at this. I can also be a student and a teacher, but how did you what mentor did you go to, or how did you find a mentor? Oh my God, deja vu, by the way. This is really weird. What is deja vu? Like, is this us making our contract and seeing this play out and we're remembering when we remember? Or what is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
deja vu?
I know one of the theories of deja vu is that we've done this before. We've
That
done this before.
That is a whole other thing we need to talk about, because I don't wanna introduce it
Yeah.
to people just starting out, because that's like timeline jumps and repeating lives, and I don't even that's
Soul
a rabbit
contract.
hole. Yeah. So,
I'll just put it this way. We've worked together in other lifetimes doing something like this, and we're doing it again.
that's so
So,
interesting. That's
yep.
interesting. Yes,
As far as
you're tethered
oh,
to
go
me
ahead.
forever. You're tethered to me forever, little one.
That there's worse things.
Oh, geez.
And
Okay,
so,
go ahead.
um, yes. So the my mentor. So it's when I got fully back into exploring spirituality and really wanting to embrace practices in general. And when I started out with my training with the magical order I'm in, a year and a day training for
Mhm.
learning the the witchcraft tradition I'm in, we study a lot of different things about signs and symbols from spirit,
Mm,
spirit
mhm.
communication, trusting yourself. Like it's about you are the magic. You are the tool. The power comes from within you with whatever you do, spirit communication, psychic work, you know, um, feeling energy from other people, being very empathic. Like all of that comes from within us. And that's when I started to trust and just be open. And that's when I didn't just trust myself, but I trusted the energies around me. And it's like when we start doing this work, it doesn't have to be, magical work, but when we start doing this work with spirit, we feel things differently. We see things differently. When we're open to spirit, we're allowing. And also, one of the things I'll say about that too is to know that the work we're doing is work that has a positive intention, a
Mhm.
loving intention, and that is very protective within itself, that we can trust ourselves and we can trust our guiding spirits. Because fear is a huge part that will cut that connection. Fear will interfere with communication and self-doubt, that kind of thing, which is normal. We're human, right? But when we start trusting the spirits around us, knowing that like, hey, they're here to help. I've asked them to come to really partner with me in my life. Knowing that these spirits are with us, whether we, realize it or not, and
Mhm.
asking to make friends with them is something that's a very powerful experience. And that allowance is what helps the messages flow. That allowance is, when it allows us to get more and more synchronicities. And when we have gratitude for the synchronicities, being like, thank you for that message, guess what? They keep coming. So I think the shift for me was that allowing and trust, and being open because I may think I know what spirit is, but sometimes, but really I don't. So being open to that and letting that idea evolve and always learning, right? So I think that's something important too.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool, and in fact, that was the topic of discussion yesterday during my meeting with Victoria.
Was it?
Yeah. Yes.
That's
So that
awesome.
was kinda cool. You've been such a big part of my development. When I first came in, I did not ever see myself working with the public. I was just like, I just want to know what dad has to say so I can be his voice. That's it. He's obviously talking to me. I'm picking up what he's putting down and that he's like the only one I want to talk to. But that's not how it works. That's not how it works and that definitely wasn't supposed to be my path. So, do you find that you are on the same like, are you guided on your path too? Like, did you have different intentions when you started this whole thing?
It's funny because we're a little different in the way where you go with the flow, like you let spirit guide and lead you, like you have, and that's part of your. I feel like not just part of your success, but like your openness to spirit being like, okay, where do I need to go next? Lead me, spirit has led you to a lot of experiences. And I'm the kind of person that kind of has this regimented, like, here's how it should go. And I put my feet in, even though spirit's like, that's not going to work. I'm like, yeah, it is, right? It's funny. So I feel like with me, I kind of get that tough love because of that stubborn part, which isn't really my conscious effort of doing it, but it's just how I work sometimes. Um, so my flow, is a little bit different. But part of, I guess, my work with being guided by spirit comes from that surrender piece we talked about. And the
Mhm.
more that I surrender, especially in the past couple months, the more that things have flowed naturally. The things I asked for help with, I've received, and I didn't really see it until we talked a few weeks ago or had our exchange together. I'm like, oh, I've received the things I've asked for. And I'm just seeing this with more stress as opposed to seeing it for what it is. And I'm like, okay, right. And I'm like, I think, oh my God, everything happened at once. I'm so stressed out. I'm like, wait, what happened? Yes, there's stressful things, but my practice has enhanced. I have really supportive people around me. Um, my business, um, has really attracted amazing people in my life and started to flourish. So, it's funny, I had to kind of change my opinion about things and the way that I see them. So the more that I surrender and have to be okay with I can't control what comes, I just have to do the best I can in the moment, the more I'm led. Following the path of least resistance with this is the
Yes.
lesson.
Yes.
But yeah, it's again that self-trust piece and knowing that like you don't control the future. Yeah. And that should be a
Mhm.
relief, but it's not sometimes. It's like, well, I want to. It's like, well, what do I know? I don't always know what's best for me, right? Kind of trust that the universe might know something, and usually does.
Maybe they know a little bit more than we do. I don't know.
I feel like in a lot of ways they see the big picture,
Of course.
um and it's special. But it's funny. We're similar in a lot of ways, but also very different. And I learned from
Yes.
you, especially from your journey of taking the messages as they come, allowing, I think it's really cool.
I'm glad that you see that because I do not see that. I see only my resistance all the time and every wall that I've hit. And I've, of course, plowed through them, but it's so funny because I got the egg. Remember the egg?
I was just about to say the egg.
The
Yep.
egg was the biggest lesson in resistance and surrender that I have learned in my whole life.
Yeah.
That was the funniest way of spirit showing me. Now, for the audience, if you haven't read Pink Lion, there's a whole chapter devoted to the egg and what it taught me. But the thing is it was divine intervention that happened because there's no other way. Like you don't see a glowing egg behind your eyes that just like pops in when you're ready to throw this duck egg in the trash. And they're like, no, there's a body in there and it's alive and you need to save it. And so um the point is the struggle that happened about whether or not to keep the egg to have a duck or not to have a duck and the lessons I learned in that resistance, just to give you a quick synopsis. But basically, I struggle with resistance in the most subtle ways too. Simply asking spirit a question or asking them blah, blah, blah is also a form of resistance. Did you know that?
Mm.
I did not.
Really?
Yes, because you're trying to control the narrative versus allowing them to tell you what you need to tell the sitter. And Victoria was very clear with me because even me asking a question is trying to control it. And I'm like, I can't ask, I just have to allow. And
Yeah.
it's funny because
Interesting.
before like all, if I, customer, the sitter, if the sitter's there and I'll say, do you have any other questions? Sometimes they'll say, can you ask blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you can ask. They're already answering because I'm already seeing something.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they already know what you're going to ask. So you might as well just ask in your head because I'll just Tourette's it out to you and say, like the other day, like bubblegum. I was like, bubblegum. That must mean something to you. And she's like crying. And she said, yeah, it does mean something to me. I think this was her fiance who passed. Their daughter was like 4 months old when he passed. But when she was in utero, Um, they looked at the ultrasonic or not the ultrasound. I still with an ultrasonic scalar word, so sorry. The ultrasound and the baby looked like it was inside of a bubble. So he called
That's
her
so,
bubble
oh,
gum, right? Called the baby bubble gum. And I don't I and that was very meaningful to them both. And that
yeah.
there was tears. And I think when people hear something like that, a piece of evidence that I simply would not know, then
Yeah.
they really understand that this is a real thing that's happening. Because we get plenty of readings with grandma and lemons and, you know, when you life gives you lemons,
Cooking
make
and yeah.
lemonade and cooking and aprons and this, that, and the other. We get
Yeah.
plenty of that stuff. It's in these other communications because that seems to be meaningful to that person. But somebody else needed a different type of validation, and spirit always knows. And if we don't try to control the narrative, if we just allow those like little miracles can happen where somebody really becomes a believer and they can really understand it and see it. We make that connection for them and it can change their perspective and it can also change their life and how they're
Absolutely.
grieving. So what we do is important, as long as we don't do harm, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that piece that piece is so key. One of the things with mediumship that I've learned from a couple of my mentors is, and of course, as you know, it's ego. We're always working on ego, getting the ego out of the way.
Hmm.
It's the and we're human, absolutely. Um, but with the intention piece, it's about when it comes to the sitter, and I struggle with this, not worried about being right, just allowing the messages to come.
Yeah.
Um, not being like, well, was this correct? How did they think about it? Are they upset? Like, are they not happy about it? Things like that. We can't think about that because it's disservice to us and to consider it to spirit. And that allowing is so important. And
Yeah.
I feel like if we're doing it with the intention because we want to be of service to spirit and the client, that piece is so important. I think that's everything for any medium. We're here to provide a healing service and help people connect in the ways that they didn't think they could. And it could even just be one session where somebody's been waiting to hear something, or they finally realize, oh, my dad's not mad at me, and they can breathe again.
Right.
I feel like it's so important in many ways because we hold on to so many things when people pass
Mhm.
away, and we're like, oh my gosh, all the regrets, right? Are they mad? I can never speak to them again. Maybe they're still resentful. Maybe I hurt them. And when they hear, oh, that stuff doesn't matter
Yeah.
anymore, that's everything. So if you do it with the intention of love and of compassion and of caring, that piece is just it's important.
Well, and they always ask me, and I don't know if they ask you the same thing, is my loved one okay? And I'm going,
Yeah,
they're perfectly fine. We're the ones that are not okay here. And so it's like this thing where their viewpoints are, I don't know, skewed, I guess is the word, right? Where we're the ones here that are left behind dealing with the emotions that derive from grief and whichever bubble, fear or love it comes from. So sometimes somebody might be grieving and angry, right? Because their a child passed or their husband or wife passed and they're angry with God or they're angry with whatever happened. That's not what's happening on the other side. There's empathy and compassion and a returning to the highest frequency, love. And they're there at peace, and you're here not at peace. And so sometimes allowing us to bridge that gap or to lift that veil for you and to help you. Because I'm telling you, if they're coming in to try and help you in some way, either
yeah,
to help heal, either to help show you that they're still here with you. There's something here to help you with whatever it is that your truth is.
yeah,
Because the
absolutely. And
medium's not going to know it. The medium is not going to know it.
right. And I hear a lot of people say too, like, oh, I just want them to talk to me and I haven't heard them yet. I want something. And why doesn't my mom ever come through? She passed away 3 years ago. Everybody else is getting messages. I've had nothing. And I don't think that the person has had anything. I think,
I agree.
well, number one, grief is so, so heavy, right? It
It is.
sometimes trumps everything else and it's hard to get messages. But also, if that loved one if their energy is with us so often and comforting us and soothing us and talking to us, sometimes we don't realize it's them. Or people will think that their inner dialogue is just with themselves when it might be their mom saying something to them. Those subtle signs and things that they get right from the spirit, they might just dismiss. Grief is rough. It's necessary, but also it's something that's just so um, hard to work
Mhm.
through and heavy. So I think for people to know too that it doesn't mean you're not connected. Maybe there's just some interference, a little interference, or maybe um, one of the things too, if we want it really, really bad, sometimes we have an expectation of how this should be and how this should go, and we miss things. Like
That's
people are like,
right.
well, I want a dream. I want a dream. Like, how come I haven't had a dream? What have you had a dream? But has like, have you been thinking about them and their song comes on the radio? Did like a random picture of your mom fall out of a book? Things like that. Um, yeah, yeah,
I mean, it can be the simplest of things. Of course, we understand the communication, so we are more adept to seeing and hearing these subtle things, right? So I'll give people out there an example for me, and maybe Naomi, you can think of one for yourself too. But so my grandmother, what was interesting is Naomi was one of the people that told me that. my grandmother has taken over my spirit team because it had been my father-in-law for a year, and then my grandmother kind of took over, and then my uncle took over for a little bit, and who knows who's in charge now.
It's a family
They're
business.
they're running amok. But there's a gang of them over there, and she's pretty much talked to all of them. But I remembered her telling me, your grandmother's, in spirit, and if you ever need her, just call upon her. And I was thinking about that. For whatever reason, that popped into my mind. And I thought, I think I might need to do that. I'd like to maybe have my grandmother be part of that today. So I was unloading my Harry Potter closet where I keep all my decorations for the holidays. And I have to pull Christmas out first and then to get to the Halloween stuff. So I was unpacking my fall decorations. And something I'm hearing my father in law and my uncle going, it's all horse shit. Like, you need to, lighten your load, throw away some things. You're not keeping all this crap when you die. So, like, I'm going, okay, I'm glad that you two are entertained with all of this, but like, all fine. I'll empty another box. Like, I've already emptied several. I'll empty another one because if I haven't touched it in 10 years, I probably don't need it. So I grabbed this random box at the bottom. I haven't touched it in probably, I don't know, the whole time I've lived here. I pull it out, which has been like 9 years. I pull it out. Inside, there are these like teacups from my grandmother. I have them kind of over there. But there's these teacups that my aunt had given. I have 4 of them, and I think I was supposed to give one to each one of my daughters and myself. And next to those teacups inside this box that I had was this little note that my aunt had written from my grandmother as a way of saying, "I'm here, I'm with you," right? It was this little let me see if I can grab it really quick. 2 seconds. No. I don't know what I did with it. I don't know what I did with the little thing, but I posted on my page. There's just this little note. And it said, Margaret Granger from Margaret Granger or whatever. And it was just this nice little poem. And she had done this for my cousins. My aunt had done this for my cousin's baby shower for her daughter like 13 years ago or something. And I'm just now finding it in a box in my thing.
Yeah.
And that's how it works, right? Like, I was just thinking about my grandmother that popped into my head, and then suddenly I'm finding a gift from her, letting me know she's with me. That's a
Yeah.
validation right there, and that's a synchronicity, and that's how the choreography kind of works. And so it's these subtle things, and some people would say, "Oh, that's a coincidence," but let me tell you, every day I get a coincidence. I don't think so. There's too many coincidences for them to be coincidences. That's when you know they're synchronicities, when they keep stacking up one after the other. But you have to be aware and not brush it off, because a lot of people will brush that off as a coincidence. It isn't. You and I finding an owl feather on the same weekend back in July, not a coincidence. You live in Connecticut. I live in California. We're on opposite coasts, and finding the same freaking feather, like, of course there were 2 different owls, but like the same
Yeah.
color, everything was crazy. That
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
It's that kind of stuff that, help reminds us that, oh, we're getting messages from spirit. Like
That's
it
right.
was confirmation, validation. And that was so funny. I'm like swinging my owl, you're like, wait. And I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
like it was cool.
No, seriously. So what is yours? Can you come up with another type of story? I'm sure you have thousands of them. I do, and it's only been a year and a half for me.
With the synchronicities.
Yeah, just something where spirit spoke to you in a subtle way, and then you got a validation.
There's been a bunch. Let me see if I can like think of one.
I keep talking if you want. I always got
Oh,
stuff to say.
so for me, especially recently, it's been numbers.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
222 1111 333 555 444. And
Mhm,
it's on like, the clock, receipts, my
mhm.
car radio, like just different things. And when that stuff comes, it's a message for me. So, and I'll be thinking about something, right? Like the best way to get through a situation, maybe I have something going on, like a reading I'm nervous about or something. and I'll see 444. And that means have stability.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of pick yourself up, know you've got this, and embrace stability. I'm like, okay, I can do this and I'll get through the situation. Like
Yeah.
I use those as codes from Spirit 333. It means, you know, don't forget to celebrate. Don't forget to think about people around you and partnerships. This isn't
Right.
something to do alone. I'm like, okay, okay. And a lot of the messages I get are from animals. So, like I get a lot of feathers as confirmation, a lot of feathers. You know, I'll put an intention out to Spirit that, on my walk, if I find a feather, that means it's validation for whatever I'm experiencing, whatever my question kind of is. And sometimes I'll find a feather, sometimes I won't. In general, when I find feathers, if I don't ask the question, and it's like a feather that would never be in a place I would think, for me, that's a message that to pay attention. Um, yeah, but like different like encounters like that, and I have encounters with animals all the time. And usually the meaning of the animal for me is an answer to the question. Um,
So
so
crazy.
it's
Yeah.
it's really interesting. I spend a lot of time outside in nature, and for animal kind of and spirit works in a lot of different ways, not just their psychic senses, but with these the signs and symbols. And as far as like the kind of animal, I guess, divination, you could say, it has to be an encounter that is just for me, not just birds being birds, not just, frogs being frogs, but something that just sticks out to me. And I was walking down this trail and I had this blue jay that was following me. I mean, all the way down the trail on every branch in front of me. And so I knew that blue jay was for me. Um, I also had an instance where I was walking down the trail, and this isn't like a preserve or like a huge like national forest. It's this little wooded area near my house. And there are houses all around it. So it's not like I'm in the forest. And as I was walking, there were three doe that came like, just barreling down the hill in front of me, like right in front of my face. Like it's just stuff like that. Uh, Running into like just a lot of different types of animals. There was one time there was a frog, and frogs are very interesting symbolically for me. And as I'm walking, there's a bridge, and I see this frog, and I'm thinking it's gonna move out of the way. I'm like, look, dude, you gotta move. There's a small bridge. I need to get by. I'm gonna step over you. And as soon as I step over, he jumped right into my like chest. And I'm like, dude. And I'm like, oh, that's my animal symbol for the day. It's like they have to be like talking to me. And frogs are amphibious and they can live in the water, on the land, like about transformation and change unexpectedly. But just fun things like that. But there's also a message for me of hey, be adaptable. So just fun stuff like that. I think it's
What do you think that your biggest challenge has been as a medium for your own self? Like I've had to give up stuff, alcohol, meat. Like I can't eat animals anymore because of the energy exchange. Like I can't put it in my
mm,
body.
yeah,
Um like things like that have been I have to stay on top of my exercise. I have to like meditate at least 5 days a week. It's like otherwise I risk, right? Not getting the message correct for somebody. And that to me sends me into a panic because I care so much about getting it correct for the
yeah,
person because it's important. It is so important because it is somebody that they love. And like I take it so very seriously. So what are your things that you've had to sacrifice or do or change in your life that have affected your own well, like your own self?
yeah. Very, very similar to yours, where in order to really have balance, body, mind, and spirit, meditation is so important. It's so key to have that stillness. But also, having an outlet. Like I do my like hardcore, like walking in the woods. But I have to have that stuff every day. Um, like eating a ton of like junk food before reading is just going to make me have brain
No.
fog. So I have to have like
Yeah.
a clean diet for the most part. Be very cognizant of that stuff. And some people argue that that doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't for everybody. For me, it does. But I want to be clear as I can to be a good channel and clear as I can to handle my own emotional crap that's happening in my life and still be able to be a medium and be present for somebody. Having to put my own BS aside, right? The things that I'm dealing with, like to be able to take care of myself, but be able to learn to hold space and put other people first when it comes to mediumship. Like, and actually, I don't know if it's really a sacrifice, but I have to learn that even though my stuff is important, it's not the only thing that I'm doing. Even though my stuff's important and the things I'm experiencing are rough, there's still an obligation I have of being of service. So I have to make sure that my stuff is in check so I can be of service. So I think the sacrifices I've had to make actually have helped my life as a whole. Having like eating healthier, having the meditation, being out in nature and walking, um, having to learn to, you know, put myself certain things aside, not to not work up and not to compartmentalize, but to be there for others. And I do feel also that mediumship is healing for the medium, that mediumship helps us to operate at a higher vibration, you
Hmm.
know? So that stuff is all important.
Yeah, because the healing work that we have to do on ourselves in
Yeah.
order to clear the path to even allow something like this to happen. It's intense.
Yeah.
They
And
call it
I think that,
the dark night of the soul or whatever. I'm like, I've been going through that
yeah,
since I was like 4, you know,
right? Yeah.
unknowingly, but it's like you never really are finished with it, you know? It's like you constantly deal with it.
Right, and it's an ebb and a flow, but I feel like the sacrifices that I've made have been things like with the having to surrender. I can't do
Mhm.
this stuff unless I surrender, and I do not want to surrender at all, but I have to. Um, and there are places where I feel like that I lost myself. I'm like, no, I didn't lose myself. I let go of something that wasn't serving me, and I gained something special. So it's like it's the loss and not that we don't we do sacrifice time, we do sacrifice things that we might want to do in order to be of service, like that stuff too, but it's a balance and we make that choice. It just everybody's different, but I feel like those sacrifices also are beneficial to us in a lot of ways, even if we don't see them at first, because spirit wants to just be a reciprocated effort, you know,
Mhm.
something that's at least in some way mutually beneficial, because with being of service, we have to be nourished too, you know?
Totally. Totally. I mean, it's I don't know, maybe I'm just really intense about it or something. I'm kind of an intense person, but I'm a calm person too. Like I used to not be though. I used to
Oh, yeah?
be pretty fiery and like taking no BS from anybody, Cindy. But I've become a different version of myself going
Yeah,
through this experience and this journey, and I'm calmer, but I'm very dedicated to this. I'm very dedicated to it because of the service part, and I never wanna hurt anyone,
yeah,
like, never. So, when I'm giving a reading, you know, it's an exchange, there's permission given and all of that. I, know that the ethical part of it is very important to me too, and I may not always I might step into something, like, unknowingly or something like that. It's
oh, yeah,
innocent.
yeah.
I'm new
We're
to
not
this.
perfect.
No, but for the most part, I definitely take it very seriously, and I wonder. I know that you do too, but I wondered about it because I don't think we've talked about that part of it. It's a like I have friends that want to drink, and yeah, I want to drink too. I want to just eat chicken and steak and like some tuna fish because I'm getting a little pudgy around the middle eating all these carbs, but spirit says no, don't do that. And so I'm like, okay, okay, fine. I'll eat this fake meat, this plant-based meat, and these beans and these salads and these veggies and fruits all day, fine.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm still gonna have some candy. I am still having some sugar. You are not taking that away from me.
yeah,
Even if it's just a little handful of licorice or something, I'm gonna have that. Um, but I'm not gonna give up every single thing, but the big things that will affect me, I will. I will because it is important. It's important that I get the I get the good. I may not always understand everything, but I'm getting really good evidence, and I know that about myself. I get really good evidence. And so there's just no way for them to not know that that was their person. And I might fumble a little bit on like how great Victoria is. She's only been doing it 20 years, but I'm only a year and a half in. So do you find that for yourself too? Do you find that you have one skill set that's stronger than the other just naturally?
Yeah, as for mediumship, I'd say my strongest skill set um, as a spirit communicator is uh, feeling their emotions, feeling and knowing their
Yes.
personality, like getting that sense for like I imagine them, not that they're not really sitting within me, but I imagine them like, hey, let me sit within me and let me feel you. That's just my visualization to help me connect. Like, okay, I'm you. How do I feeling? What am I struggling with? What are my aches and pains? Like that is what really for me speaks is like and I feel their emotions, which can be which is actually
Mm,
pretty beautiful at the time. It could be pretty heavy sometimes too, but I feel like that piece is what I really is that, and I didn't realize that's so recently too, but that feeling piece, empathic part, knowing their humor,
yeah,
that for me is my stronger skill set, and like a lot of physical sensations too, and other things. But I think that's the strongest for me.
that's pretty cool. I know you get good stuff when we do our exchanges. You get really good information. It can be intense reading each other sometimes. Like I'm
Yeah,
sitting here listening to you and I'm seeing all these like things. They're coming in really fast, right? Like all these objects I've seen over the last couple of days. And what that's telling me is just this like your mind is going 100 miles a minute and it's like this card file. It's like a Rolodex that's just kind of going, 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 going. So I'm like, okay, so Naomi's going through some fear of her own right now with this Rolodex, type of thing, which of course then we would go to the next thing, right? So for you, you have to drop in and then you get something else. It's like you read very differently. How it comes in for me is very differently than how it comes in for you.
yeah.
I don't know why I started doing that. I have no idea where the heck was I going with that?
Me with the reading me.
No, yeah, I like brought it up for a reason. There was something I was going to say. I have no idea. I'm 53. I'm going to have some sort of memory stuff happen, I guess.
I'm right there. I'm right there.
I'm like, I have no idea where I was going with that. And if you don't know, don't worry. I'm just rattling stuff off. But I was going to say that's how things kind of start for me. How do they normally start for you? Because you like to feel, I see. So I'll see something and then I need to feel. But for you, you feel it first. So how does that work for you? That's where I was going with it.
So actually, what I do is I have like a structure
Yeah.
um, that I start with. So it's like, okay, what's your gender? Boom. And then from there, okay, what's your personality like? Boom. And that's kind of like those are the things I start with. So my
Mm-hmm.
guides tell them like, okay, this is the information she needs that we need to give her. So that's what I allow. And then the other things just kind of come. But those are the things that I start with. Um, and once they kind of I imagine them sitting within me so I can feel everything, I just let it flow. But that's where I start. Um, Getting those pieces of evidence first. So
That's pretty cool. I love that. Well, I want to thank you for making yourself available today. And we are going to start doing this every week, right?
yep, I'm
Okay, good.
excited. I'm so excited, Cindy. This is
I am
great.
too. So, guys, now that you've gotten to know Naomi, we're going to co host. We'll have some more guests on. We're going to be doing this weekly together. We're very excited to bring you Pink Lion Podcast. Woo
Yes,
woo!
absolutely.
Woo woo!
Thank you
Raise
so much
the
for having me.
house.
I appreciate you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, everyone, get used to us. We are here to talk to you about everything under the sun, spiritual wise, anyway. Or
Absolutely.
all right, have a good week. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you next week. Take care.
Thanks.